son is racing.
Welcome, race fans, to another episode of the Rubbin' Is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show. This week we go bowling at the Glen. That's right, kids. We turn left and right as we go road course racing. The stages are going to be at laps 20, lap 40, and then we race the final 50 laps all the way to the finish.
Interesting fact here about Watkins Glens is since 2013, so 5 races, Toyota has won 3 of those races, with Chevy and Ford splitting 1 race each. Those winners came from the top 6 starting positions 4 of those 5 races. In 35 races here total, the pole sitter has gone 1-1 only 9 times. The last time for somebody to do it was Rowdy back in 2008.
The weather should be around 90 degrees and sunny when they go racing at 2:58 Eastern on NBC. We're on the flagship network this time. So NASCAR has gone and done it again, except this week it's even worse. Inspection will start at 8 a.m. this morning, and with 13 cars failing last week, this should make this morning extremely interesting. Because of the fact that the entire field can get upended, Liehr and I are going to do things a little bit differently. But Liehr, I think we're in agreement. The one thing that we should keep intact is the go to the garage segment. Who do you want to send to the garage? I'll let you do the honors.
Man, this is an easy choice this week, my friend, but it's time to send NASCAR in general to the garage for this bold move, Cotton. Overall, it just puts everybody in a bad spot. It puts all the drivers in a bad spot because right now they don't know if they're going to pass tech inspect in the morning. And so, they have no idea where they're going to start from. Their crew chiefs, got to put together a strategy based off of where they're going to start from. And they're not going to know that, for, hour, 2 hours maybe before the race. And on top of that, for us, for fantasy NASCAR guys, we've got a kind of a guide to go by right now because of qualifying. But in essence, we have nothing to go on because, guys could be changing from the front to the back. Then those guys in the middle could slide forward, so on and so forth. So I don't know. But the other thing is hopefully DraftKings is paying attention. And once everything does get set after, tech inspect is completed, that they actually change the starting position for the drivers, because otherwise that's going to be a huge quandary for everybody.
I do want to say this. DraftKings has done an excellent job so far this season of changing the drivers. I don't think it'll be an issue. I'm pretty sure they've got somebody on standby ready to change them as soon as we get any information. And hopefully it's not the multi-hour process it was last week to get cars through. But the reality is we don't know. And that's why I agree with you. I think NASCAR needs to be sent to the garage. I don't think that there's any fans that are going to the race tomorrow morning that are excited about seeing cars roll through inspection. We could have done this the day before so everybody knew what the field was and how the field is set. Fantasy NASCAR is the one driving force in gaining viewership for the sport. With that said, the sport is falling off with viewership. So I don't get why you would disrespect the one group of fans that are actually trying to breathe life back into the sport.
Well, the one reason that I heard that they were doing it this way this week compared to last week is, so same thing. They qualified on Saturday. Well, apparently all the NASCAR officials that do the inspections and the scans, they were there at the track till 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and then had to basically turn around and be at Pocono at 6 a.m. the next day. So real short time frame for them, which I understand that. But at the same time, it's like, okay, well, now you're just putting the rest of the sport and the fans all on hold because it doesn't work out for your guys' schedule. So I get it from both perspectives. So, I just hope that NASCAR can find some sort of resolution to make it where it's not hours before the start of the race time.
I agree. Why not move everything forward a few hours? That way they're not at the track all night. Like, we could have done everything today a couple hours earlier, and it wouldn't have harmed anyone at all, and then they avoid that problem. But, whatever. I've tad bit of cool news, if you haven't heard. before we get into breaking down this week's race, Bill Elliott will don probably a rookie stripe and a NASCAR Hall of Fame stripe when he gets back in a car next week and goes racing at Road America in the Xfinity Series for GMS Racing. His first time in an Xfinity car in, 30 years?
Yeah.
This is crazy. It's actually pretty cool, though. Liehr, your thoughts on Elliott getting back in the car?
Oh, Billy. I think it's obviously a cool thing. I just don't know a guy that hasn't been in an actual seat for years and years and years and years and years if he is physically able to do what is required of him to race that car. But two, not only for his own safety, but the safety of the other drivers that are out there. Obviously there's going to be a little bit of worry there. But, overall, though, such a cool thing to happen for sure, without a doubt.
Yeah, and it couldn't happen to one of the nicer drivers, like especially
Right.
retired drivers. That guy will talk your ear off about racing and is really personable and amazing at the track. So if you ever get a chance, definitely say hi and get to know Bill Elliott. It's a
Just
pretty
walk
cool.
up to him.
Yeah, just
And
he will just start telling stories. It's pretty
yeah.
cool. With that said, Liehr, let's go ahead and get into this week's race. There's a lot of interesting options as long as the field doesn't get flipped on us. We have Denny Hamlin sitting on the pole, and he has an inflated price tag this week on DraftKings of $10,300. What are your opinions on Hamlin?
I definitely like the Hambone this week. Coming off of a performance last week that wasn't so hot, but as far as Hamlin goes, this is definitely one of his best tracks. He's probably if he stays in the first position on the pole, he's going to be a very popular pick. I think just because based off of his history here and where he's going to be starting from. Obviously today during the Xfinity race, Logano went 1-1. I'm not saying that will happen tomorrow, or I guess that is today. We are filming after midnight, by the way, folks. As far as Hamlin is concerned, guy's done pretty damn well here, and this is one of the tracks that he's kind of a little bit known as a road course racer. So, but 12 starts here. He does have one win and 3 top 5s. So I definitely feel that he will be a play if he starts on the pole. Even if he doesn't start from the pole tomorrow, even if he gets sent to the back, he's still going to be a play in my mind because that is a guy that was really fast in the practices today as well. He was second in final practice. So I think it's just a guy that you're going to probably have to have ownership on this week.
Yeah, and I would say the same is true for Kyle Busch. You could also go Chase Elliott if you had him dominating. He also looked really good in final practice. Another play is Truex, who has won the last 2 road course races. He's going for 3 straight. These are all interesting plays. The real interesting part, though, is that the guys in the front, unless they dominate a bunch of laps, aren't traditionally required here to be on a winning lineup. It's more about place differential. So I think of that entire group. If I have one of those guys dominating, or if several of them get sent to the back of the field, I'm going to need to figure out how to play several of them. If not, I may want to play that just one dominator out of that group.
Yeah, man. I think it's going to be very reminiscent of last weekend at Pocono. You're probably going to need one guy, whoever it's going to be the top dominator guy. So last week it was Suarez. I didn't really think it was going to be. But you definitely had to have Suarez on your lineup last week because the amount of laps that he led and where he finished second. So mixed up with Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick with those place differential guys, that was the lineup that you needed to take it down. Again, this week, very similar, and we are only racing 90 laps today. So, it's going to be one of those situations where you really got to put your emphasis on the place differential plays this week versus, those complete dominators.
The next guys we have are the guys that, personally, I don't think are going to be those dominators, but if you wanted to get on an island, you possibly could with the Kyle Larsons of the world, the Joey Logano's, the Amarolas. If you have a race vision and where you think those guys could be the dominator, that could help you get on an island. But in all reality, I'm not seeing those guys necessarily be point viable to make as fantasy plays this week. Liehr, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm definitely not about the Kyle Larson play this week. $9,500 starting from the fifth position. If he goes to the rear of the field, I will probably have a little bit of exposure on him. But still, I mean, Larson's just not one of those guys that's known as a road course, type of driver. Um, Even though he had race today in the Xfinity race to get some experience for him out there. But I mean, him here at the Glen, I'm not really about it. He's raced here 4 times. He's got one top 5, one top 10. So with his salary, I'm in other directions this weekend. Logano's a little bit of a different story. I do like Logano quite a bit, especially after today. Winning the Xfinity Series. I could see him sweeping the weekend this weekend. Logano's got 9 starts. He does have 1 win here. He's got 3 top 5s out of those 9 starts with 5 top 10s. And it's not like he's, led a ton of laps or anything here. But at the same time, I definitely like what the momentum of today's win will do for him, because they played a little bit of a nice strategy. Was up at the front, got back towards the rear a little bit, and then ended up at the front at the end. So strategy is going to play huge for today's race as well. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. And I definitely think that you should have some exposure on Logano too. Also for the fact that he's $9,100. So, he's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th highest on the board next to his teammate, Brad Keselowski. So, may get some overlooking there from Joey Logano, especially with your Kyle Busch, Martin Truex starting from 2-4 right now. If that does happen to move up a little bit too, in my opinion, that's going to make me like Joey Logano a little bit more as well.
I couldn't agree more. Another thing that I think is interesting is the next group of guys, and that's basically guys that I think are interesting from an ownership perspective and a price-wise, depending on which ones you're going to play. And that starts with really the Dinger starting 8th, Eric Jones starting 9th, Casey Kane starting 10th, Blaney starting 11th, and our boy, Michael McDowell, who was top 10 in practice 1 and top 5 in final practice before qualifying 12th.
Yeah, I mean, Dinger, man, I mean, it's awesome, though, because, we usually go to these road courses, and everybody knows that A.J. Allmendinger is a road course ringer, and he's always going to be the one that everybody's going to look at these races. His salary just jumps right through the ceiling, which is no different this week, because he moves all the way up to an $8,300 price point, where he's normally, $6,700, $6,800, $6,900, maybe even $7,000 sometimes. But so he gets a bump up in salary. Nothing like crazy, though. I mean, remember what was it, last year, year before, 9,000, 9,500, up there with the top tier echelon guys of the sport. But that puts pressure on him. And so I think with today too, this is the first time he's actually raced in an Xfinity race, then doing the Cup race, the next day, and did awesome today, man. I mean, guy was up there, led a bunch of laps. But the other crazy part too was he ended up having to take a penalty towards the end of the race, going through too many pit boxes when they pitted. So he had to come in and actually take a penalty and go 1 lap down. And with just a minimal amount of laps left, there were some cautions that played a part into that, but that helped him out. But he ended up getting second, man. And the guy just really good here at Watkins Glen. I mean, somebody that you're obviously, going to have exposure on him this week. I mean, this is where he has a win. He started here 9 times. He's got 3 top 5s and 6 top 10s. So depending on what happens with, post-qualifying inspections this morning. I mean, Allmendinger probably going to come with a pretty large ownership percentage, somebody that's not going to be a separator for you, but, obviously somebody at an $8,300 price point that's not at a huge, part of the top of the echelon as far as the salary-wise is concerned, but somebody that can definitely bring it for you. But as far as the other guys, I do like Eric Jones. For some reason or another, I mean, not really sure why, but Eric Jones this week is only $6,700 in Toyota JGR equipment. So Be cognizant of that one, kids. That is, I mean, maybe not because of the driver. I mean, even though he's only raced here one time, he did do well. Yeah, but as far as the price point, that's what I'm looking at, and the starting position. If he can stay in that top 10 at that starting position, love it. I'm definitely going to have some exposure to Eric Jones. As far as Casey Kane, Casey actually is a pretty good, decent road course racer, and obviously by that 10th qualifying position, and he was running high in practices today too. The only thing with Kane, though, is if I had to have a choice, and I'm assuming, okay, I don't know what your thoughts are, but I would say maybe 3 out of the top 10, 4 out of the top 10 fail inspection. So if he's going to move up 3 or 4 spots, that's going to put me in a zone where I do not feel comfortable rostering Casey Kane this week.
That's what I was getting ready to ask you.
Unless he was one of the ones that failed qualifying inspection.
Right. The problem with these guys is the math says that they aren't going to be in play if a few guys go to the back of the pack, unless they somehow dominate. Because place differential is key here. And other than the source of value, which you could get, but if the guys go to the back, they all get bumped in starting position, and then you're really up against the wall, in my opinion. I don't know that if inspection throws a bunch of cars out, I don't know that you can play any of these cars, to be quite honest.
No, I hear you there because, I mean, if you're talking, but we said the same thing last week with Daniel Suarez and Eric Jones and, some of these other guys starting in that, top 5, top 6. And, they ended up being able to stay there. And this is kind of the same thing, but the problem is what's the number? What's the number going to be? How many of these guys are going to actually go to the back? Who's going to go to the back? That's essential to know too, because, if we're talking about guys like a Casey Kane, honestly, he may start from the 40th position again like he did last week, but I really could only see him moving up maybe 10, 15, 20, 15 positions, maybe 20 positions tops mostly. Because, this race is going to go pretty damn fast.
Yeah, but 20 positions makes him a must roster if he goes to the back of the field. It's going to make anyone that gets thrown to the back of the field in decent equipment that was running at all decently a must play. That's why we're doing the show this way, is because of that factor. And I can't not make that play if he goes to the back of the field.
No, I'm not saying that I wouldn't make that play if he started from the 40th position, but I'm just saying that, with him, if he ends up like starting from the 8th position or the 9th position, I'm not really sure. I probably can't roster him at all from that position. But if he goes to the back of the field, yeah, he'd probably get 10, 15, 20 place differential points. And I would think that would be a great day for him. It's not going to be a great day in actuality for them, but from a fantasy perspective, it would be a great day.
In the next group of guys, we have Jimmy Johnson at 13th. That's an interesting play, but if he gets bumped up, I'm not sure I want to make that play. I don't really have him dominating here. We have Paul Menard starting 14th, McMurray starting 15th, Harvick starting 16th, who has a win here. That's an interesting play. I don't know. He hasn't shown the speed that the other guys have this week. 17th is Byron. 18th is Keselowski. That's a really interesting play to me. And 19th is Boyer, who is extremely fast. Boyer at 19th is really appealing to me. And then Newman at 20th. Liehr, what are your thoughts on those guys?
I'm probably right there with you. Not probably much love for Jimmy Johnson or Paul Menard. They're going to move up in the field. Not comfortable with that. Same thing with McMurray. Harvick is going to be an interesting play, kind of wondering where he's going to start from. A guy especially, too, if he's starting from the teens and or the back. You got to have exposure on Harvick. There's no question about it. The just problem with him, though, this week is he's obviously, like every week, just Mr. Expensive at $12,100 this week. Definitely like some Billy Byron this week is kind of a little bit of a sneaky play there. And then, of course, love the next 4 guys, Brad Keselowski, Clint Boyer, Ryan Newman, and then also Kurt Busch. All of those guys are all, definitely plays for me, especially where they're starting from. Even though Ryan Newman did clip the wall today in practice, is still okay. And then I saw that Clint Boyer, his car caught fire underneath it while they were working on it. So a little crazy thing there, but I don't think that's going to affect them for tomorrow. But definitely if my preference would be more of a Keselowski, Boyer, Newman, Kurt Busch. But if I had to choose, two out of those, I'd probably go Kevin Harvick and probably Clint Boyer. I mean, stick with Stewart-Haas Racing, right? It hasn't failed us yet this year.
No, it really has not.
And Kurt Busch, throw Kurt Busch in there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was going to put him in the next tier, but it doesn't matter. I'm with you on that. Kurt Busch is a play. The next group of guys we have starting 22nd is Buescher. 23rd is Suarez. That's an interesting play in his equipment. Alex Bowman starting 24th is an interesting play. Sticky Ricky, 25th. Austin Dillon, 26th. David Reagan, 27th. And even Matt Kenseth, 28th are all interesting plays to me as long as they don't get moved up, right? If cars fail inspection and those cars start sliding up the board, they start losing their place differential potential. And it really scares me on some of those cars because some of those cars weren't showing the speed that I expected them to. Liehr, your thoughts?
Yeah, especially too, those first guys that we talked about, definitely not Chris Buescher. I'm not going that route, even though he's crazy low as far as salary, because, that play would get you some leniency there when it comes to picking your guys up from the top of the heap. But, at $5,900, that's a play that, maybe some people might make as a swerve play in a tournament. But not really somewhere I would like to go. But guys I definitely like, Daniel Suarez, guy performed very, very well here last year. Definitely he's only got one race here, but he's got a top 5 already. He finished 3rd. So a guy that, especially coming off his best performance in the Monster Cup Energy Series with the 2nd place last week, guy that's going to take that momentum into the Glen tomorrow, or today. So I'm definitely going to have some exposure on Daniel Suarez. And then also, too, Alex Bowman coming off his best performance of the season with the 3rd place last week at Pocono and starting from that position. Definitely like me some Alex Bowman this week as well. Not so hot to trot on the Sticky Ricky play. I just foresee him, with too many turns. I don't know. It depends on what happens to Sticky Ricky. Find out tomorrow, or today, or this morning. I keep saying tomorrow because I haven't slept yet. But and then Austin Dillon, another guy that I love the fact that he's starting 26, but the guy just is horrible. He just couldn't even today during the Xfinity race, just problem after problem after problem. Just a guy that I just can't put any trust in. Definitely like some David Reagan for the salary relief, and Matt Kenseth. My God, starting from the 28th position, possibly, maybe starting from the 24th or 25th. Either way, Matt Kenseth, recipe for goodness when it comes to the Glen and a $6,900 price point. So yeah, I'm all about it.
Guys, that leaves us the last group of drivers, which, in my opinion, you don't need to go down to this week, but you can to try to get cute or to save salary if you want. And that starts with Parker Kligerman at 29th, Matt DiBenedetto's 30th, Bubba Wallace, who still has problems turning and braking, at 31st.
And at least thank God he's okay, because after that accident last week, holy moly, that thing was crazy.
Right. Ty Dillon at 32nd, who I like that, but he'll be over-owned because of that. Cole Witt, welcome back in the number 72 car, starting 33rd. 34th,
good to have you back, Cole.
34th is Ross Chastain. 35th is Josh Bilicki. 36th is Spencer Gallagher. And 37th, bringing up the rear, is Landon Castle. I don't foresee a need necessarily to play any of those guys, but at a road course, you can get cute and play some of the guys in the back of the field, and as long as they don't have the malfunctions, several cars will probably drop out with brake issues, like tire issues, you name it. A couple of them will wreck out. They can gain a couple of positions if you really want to get crazy, but I don't see a need to this week. Do you, Liehr?
Well, especially, too, after – I'm going to go ahead and call it right now. I'm going to say there's a minimum of 8 cars that fail inspection. So that's bumping them up, all of those guys, 8 positions, including probably maybe some of them that may also, fail as well, tech inspect. But I'm going to say at least 8 of them fail inspection. So that's going to move all of those guys up 2 positions that you do not want to roster them. But that's the crazy part is you don't have to go down that far this week. Salaries this week have allowed you to be able to pretty much put together anything you want without having to go that far down to punt. So I would say, if you want to get cute in like the 50K tournament, be my guest. It gives you some salary relief and maybe get you another driver that you really want on there, especially too if we've got some of these big boys that are all going to be towards the back. Then you may have to dip down, far enough to put one of those guys on your roster.
That could very well change this outlook if a bunch of the guys that are really good drivers fail inspection. You're going to have to roster them, and you might have to punt down at that point in time. But, Liehr, I think that's as much coverage as we can do without knowing who's passing inspection tomorrow morning. We will both try our best to update as soon as we find out information. We'll be updating on the YouTube page. We'll both give you our thoughts of who becomes plays that we need to make at that point in time, and we'll both try to get as much out to you as possible in the morning time. But Liehr clearly needs to get some sleep, but before he does, I'm going to let him give us last week's results in the league, and then we're going to let Liehr get some shut eye.
Yeah, man, it's been a long day. I had to work today, and then got some stuff done around the house, and then one of our buddies had a birthday today, so went out with him, and so it's been a long day. 3:00 in the morning. I'm definitely ready to get some sleep. So congratulations to 7 out of our 54 players last week.
We called it.
Who all tied for the first place position. What were you going to say, brother?
I said we called it, dude. It was obvious. Like, there were so many obvious plays.
Yeah. But congratulations to Smitty, DJ Primic, ACGOAD, Agode, Johnny Ed, Poppa Poop, Ski Bone 21, J Frost 757. I wonder if that stands for Jack Frost. And good. I'm sorry, it was stops at Jack Frost 757. All scored 380 points. Kyle Busch must own from that 28th starting position and winning the race. Billy Byron, we recommended him, came through with that 6th place finish for 73 points. Austin Dillon with a 55-point performance. Kevin Harvick with 88.5. Casey Kane, who only got 10 plus place differential points with a 30 position finish, and so that was a little bit disappointing. He got 24 points, and then you had Paul Menard starting from the 36th position, finished 21st for 38. So 380 points, but congratulations to all you guys, and thanks for participating in the league. I can't wait to watch this. I'm looking forward to the race tomorrow. Also to see how this all is going to go down with the tech inspect in the morning, and if DraftKings actually gets it all changed in time, because that is going to be a huge wrench in there if they change all these starters, but it doesn't change on DraftKings. That's going to be insane. But as far as that goes, I am so looking forward to it. It's going to be awesome to watch the race, and always appreciate you guys watching the show. And I think it's going to be something close to like what we had last week. We're going to have quite a few big names starting from the rear, and it's going to be tough goings to pick on who you want to pick.
Thanks again for watching, guys. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and like I said, engage us tomorrow. We'll get as much information to you guys as quickly as possible. So good luck, everybody. Let's win some money. If I'm not winning or Liehr's not, I really hope it's you guys. So have a good one.
I know it's 3:00 in the morning and we failed to do it, but burning rubber, Watkins, Glen style, baby.
There you go. Just for you to end the show for you guys out there. All right, have a good one, guys.
There you go.